After the lights go out, his brain floods with a chemical cocktail that determines everything about your future. It's not magic, it's science. Most people mistake this chemical rush for simple attraction, but it's so much more. 99% of people miss the final vulnerability cue I'm going to share, and it's the one that separates a temporary high from a lifelong bond. Don't be one of them. Primal brain. What's happening in his mind in the moments and hours after physical intimacy is less about a conscious, logical decision-making process and more about a deep, ancient, and incredibly powerful biological script that's been running in humans for thousands of years. We think we're so evolved with our apps and our careers and our complex social lives, but when it comes to connection, the most primitive part of our brain, the part that's focused on survival, safety, and replication, takes the driver's seat. And this part of the brain doesn't speak in words, it speaks in chemicals. The first and most famous of these is oxytocin. We call it the bonding hormone or the cuddle chemical, but that's a bit of an oversimplification. It's more like a trust serum. When his brain is flooded with oxytocin, the walls of his emotional fortress temporarily come down. The social anxiety, the fear of judgment, the need to project a certain image, it all softens. This chemical creates a window of profound psychological safety. This is why the conversations that happen in that post-intimacy space can be so raw and revealing. His brain is literally primed for connection, for lowering its guard. He's not just feeling good, he's feeling safe. This is a critical data point his subconscious is logging. It's asking, is this person a safe harbor? When my defenses are down, do I feel protected and accepted, or do I feel exposed and vulnerable in a negative way? The answer to that question, felt on a purely instinctual level, is far more important than anything he might say out loud. It's the foundation upon which genuine emotional intimacy is either built or begins to crumble. The feeling of safety he experiences in your presence during this chemical window is what his brain will crave again later. Then there's dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward. This is the chemical that makes us seek out pleasurable experiences again and again. During intimacy, his brain's reward system is firing on all cylinders, creating a powerful association between you and an intensely positive feeling. But here's the fascinating part. Dopamine isn't just about the pleasure itself, it's about the anticipation of it. After the experience, his brain is essentially taking a snapshot. It's cataloging everything about the moment, the scent, the sound of your voice, the feeling of closeness, and tagging it with a massive dopamine spike. This creates a powerful neurological link. In the days that follow, when he thinks of you, his brain might release a small trickle of that same dopamine, making him want to re-engage, to get another hit of that reward. This is why it's not just about the physical act, it's about the entire sensory experience. A positive, respectful, and emotionally connected encounter wires you into his reward circuitry as a high-value prize. A negative or disconnected experience does the opposite. It might still provide a dopamine rush, but it won't have the same lasting, motivational pull. His brain is learning what to move toward and what to avoid. If the entire experience felt good, safe, and rewarding, his primal brain is sending a very clear signal. More of this. This is good for my survival and well-being. It's a powerful, non-logical drive that will influence his behavior and thoughts about you long after the initial chemical high has faded, pushing him to seek you out again, not just for physical reasons, but to re-experience that profound sense of reward. Finally, we have to talk about vasopressin. This is a hormone that's closely related to oxytocin, but plays a slightly different role, particularly in men. While oxytocin is often about creating feelings of trust and connection with anyone, vasopressin is more strongly linked to feelings of protectiveness, territoriality, and pair bonding with a specific partner. After a powerful bonding experience, a surge in vasopressin can trigger a subtle but significant shift in his mindset. It's the switch that flips from me to a nascent we. He might feel a subconscious urge to protect you, to provide for you, to ensure your well-being. This isn't a conscious thought like, I must now defend this person. It's a much deeper, more instinctual feeling. It can manifest in small ways. Does he pull the blanket over you? Does he ask if you need a glass of water? Does he instinctively position himself between you and the door? These might seem like tiny, insignificant gestures, but they can be external cues of an internal vasopressin surge. His brain is marking you as someone who is part of his inner circle, someone to be guarded. This is an incredibly important signal. When this chemical is in play, the connection transcends simple pleasure and moves into the realm of attachment and loyalty. He's not just thinking about how you make him feel. His primal brain is beginning to categorize you as someone whose safety and happiness are linked to his own. It's the biological bedrock of commitment, the ancient programming that encourages a bond to last beyond a single encounter. Emotional echo. Once the initial intense chemical wave begins to recede, what's left is what I like to call the emotional echo. This is the lingering feeling, the psychological resonance of the experience that colors his thoughts for hours and even days afterward. This phase is less about the raw biology of the primal brain and more about how that biological event is interpreted and integrated into his emotional landscape. This is where vulnerability plays the starring role. True intimacy is the ultimate act of vulnerability. It's a complete dropping of the social mask. In that state, every word, every touch, and every moment of silence is amplified. His emotional system is wide open, absorbing data about the interaction. Afterward, his mind begins to process this data. The central question it's trying to answer is, was my vulnerability honored? If the experience was filled with mutual respect, kindness, and genuine presence, the emotional echo is one of warmth, contentment, and a deep sense of peace. He feels seen and accepted for who he is, without the usual armor. This feeling is incredibly addictive and rare. It creates a powerful sense of emotional safety that makes him not only want to repeat the physical experience, but also to deepen the emotional one. He'll find his thoughts drifting back to the feeling of being completely at ease with you. This positive echo is what makes him text the next day, not out of obligation, but because he genuinely wants to reconnect with the source of that profound comfort. Conversely, if his vulnerability was met with emotional distance, criticism, or a sense of being used, the emotional echo is jarring and cold. It's a feeling of exposure, regret, or even shame, what we often call a vulnerability hangover. His brain logs the experience as a threat. The message is, it is not safe to be open with this person. This negative echo will cause him to pull back, to become distant, or to create space, not necessarily because he didn't physically enjoy the moment, but because the emotional cost was too high. He'll be subconsciously trying to rebuild the walls that were taken down. This is why someone can seem intensely interested one moment and completely withdrawn the next. It's not about you personally. It's a self-protective mechanism triggered by an emotional echo that felt unsafe or unsettling. The second part of this emotional echo is the assessment of reciprocity. Our brains are constantly and subconsciously running a social calculus. We are wired to seek fairness and mutual investment in our relationships. After an intimate experience, his mind is quietly evaluating the energetic exchange. Did it feel like a shared journey, or did it feel one-sided? Was there a mutual giving and receiving of attention, affection, and emotional energy? This isn't a conscious checklist, but a felt sense. If he perceives the connection as reciprocal, it strengthens the bond immensely. It validates his own investment and makes him feel like he's part of a team. The emotional echo is one of satisfaction and partnership. This feeling of balance is crucial. It tells him that this isn't a transactional relationship, but a relational one. He'll feel more comfortable investing more of himself, his time, his emotions, his future plans, because he trusts that his investment will be matched. If, however, he feels that he was the only one being vulnerable, or that the focus was entirely on one person's needs, the echo will be one of imbalance and emptiness. It can leave him feeling drained or unappreciated. This feeling of inequity is a major red flag for his subconscious, signaling that a long-term connection with you might be emotionally unsustainable. He will be far less likely to pursue something deeper because the foundational sense of a fair two-way street is missing from the emotional blueprint of your time together. Connection test. Every interaction after intimacy becomes a small but significant connection test. The primal brain has had its say with its chemical flood, the emotional echo is resonating, and now the conscious and subconscious minds are working together to gather more data. He is, whether he realizes it or not, watching for cues that will either confirm or contradict the feelings that emerged during that vulnerable time. The period immediately following, the first few minutes, the next morning, the first text exchange, is a minefield of information. His brain is in a state of heightened awareness, trying to figure out, what did that moment actually mean? The answers aren't in grand declarations, they're in the micro behaviors. The most immediate test is the aftermath. What happens in the moments after the peak of connection? Is there a turning toward or a turning away? This is a concept from relationship science that is incredibly predictive. A turning toward is any gesture, verbal or nonverbal, that maintains the connection. It could be cuddling, a soft conversation, making eye contact, holding hands, or simply lying in comfortable silence. These actions say, the connection is what matters, not just the event. It reinforces the oxytocin bond and tells his brain that the safety he felt was real and continues to exist. This is the ultimate green light. It signals that you are interested in him as a whole person, not just a means to an end. A turning away, on the other hand, is any action that abruptly severs that connection. This is the classic example of someone immediately rolling over and going to sleep, grabbing their phone to scroll, or quickly changing the subject to something logistical. This behavior sends a jarring signal to a brain that is still swimming in bonding hormones. It says, the event is over, and so is the connection. It can invalidate the entire experience, making him feel like an object or a task that has been completed. This can trigger a profound sense of emotional whiplash and insecurity, even if the physical experience itself was positive. His brain interprets this as a rejection of the vulnerable self he just shared, and it will be a powerful deterrent to future emotional investment. The next test is the next day gauge. The nature of the first communication after you've been apart speaks volumes. It's not just about whether he texts, but how he texts. A message that is warm, personal, and references the shared experience in a positive way is a strong indicator that the emotional echo was a good one. Something like, thinking about you this morning, or last night was amazing, serves to extend the bubble of intimacy. It communicates that the connection wasn't confined to the bedroom. It has carried over into the light of day. This reinforces the idea that the bond is real and has staying power. It tells him that you are also integrating the experience in a positive way, which creates a feedback loop of security and mutual interest. Conversely, silence or a purely logistical text, "Did I leave my charger?" can be deeply unsettling. Silence allows his mind to fill in the blanks, and it will often default to the worst-case scenario. She regrets it. It meant nothing to her, or I misread the whole situation. A logistical text is almost as bad, as it completely bypasses the emotional significance of what you shared. It functionalizes the interaction, stripping it of its specialness. This can make him feel foolish for having been so open. It signals that you have already compartmentalized the experience, and it encourages him to do the same. This test is a critical moment where the potential for a deeper relationship is either nurtured or effectively shut down by the simple choice of words or the lack thereof. Future gaze. After the immediate biological and emotional dust settles, his brain begins to engage in one of its most important functions: prediction. Our brains are fundamentally prediction machines, constantly trying to map out the future to keep us safe and help us achieve our goals. An intimate experience provides a massive amount of data for this process. He starts to, consciously or subconsciously, gaze into the future and ask, does this person fit into the future I envision for myself? The experience you shared becomes a primary piece of evidence in this internal trial. It's not just about whether it was fun, it's about whether it felt compatible with his deeper values and long-term desires. If the experience was characterized by respect, laughter, emotional safety, and a sense of genuine partnership, his brain will start to paint a very positive picture of the future with you. He'll start to imagine more of those moments. The intimacy becomes a proof of concept for what a relationship with you could be like. It felt good, it felt safe, it felt right. Therefore, a future with more of that seems like an excellent, highly rewarding path. This is when you might start to hear him use we language more naturally. He might say, we should try that restaurant next week, or we'd have fun on a trip there. He is literally test driving the idea of a shared future in his mind, and the positive, intimate experience is the fuel for that journey. However, if the experience felt disconnected, awkward, or emotionally unsafe, His predictive brain will raise red flags. It will forecast a future filled with more of that same negative feeling. The intimacy, instead of being a bridge to a shared future, becomes a wall. It serves as evidence that you are not compatible on a fundamental level. He might enjoy you physically, but his brain will be screaming that a deeper, long-term entanglement would lead to more anxiety and dissatisfaction. This is when a man might pull away, even after what seemed like a great physical connection. It's not a rejection of you as a person, but a rejection of the future he predicts based on the data he gathered during your most vulnerable moments together. Furthermore, this future gaze is deeply tied to the concept of partner value and life goals. He is assessing whether your presence in his life enhances his journey or detracts from it. Does being with you make him feel more confident, more capable, more himself? A truly positive, intimate connection can be profoundly affirming. It can make him feel powerful and seen, which in turn boosts his sense of well-being and his motivation to pursue his own goals. He sees you as a supportive force, an asset to his life. The future with you looks brighter and more expansive. He thinks, with her, I feel like I can be a better version of myself. If the aftermath of your time together is filled with drama, insecurity, or emotional neediness, it sends the opposite signal. It suggests that a relationship with you would be draining, a source of stress that would detract from his energy and focus. His brain categorizes this as a high-cost, low-reward investment. The future then looks like a series of problems to be managed rather than a joyful adventure to be shared. He is making a subconscious calculation about the energetic cost of being with you. Intimacy is the ultimate test of this because it reveals the raw, unedited emotional dynamics between two people. The way he feels after being with you, energized and inspired or depleted and stressed, is a powerful predictor of whether he will lean into a future with you or back away from it. Vulnerability hangover. There is another, often misunderstood reaction that can occur after intimacy, and it's critical to understand: the vulnerability hangover. This isn't necessarily a sign that things went poorly, but rather a testament to the sheer power of what was shared. A vulnerability hangover is that feeling of being overexposed, a wave of "what have I done?" anxiety that can wash over someone after they've let their deepest guard down. It's the emotional equivalent of being out in the sun for too long. You felt great in the moment, but now you feel the burn. This can happen even after a wonderfully positive and connected experience. This phenomenon is rooted in our deep-seated need for self-protection. For most of his life, a man is socialized to be strong, stoic, and in control. Being truly vulnerable, emotionally and physically naked in front of another person, goes against years of conditioning. After the oxytocin and dopamine begin to wear off, his more logical, guarded brain comes back online and might sound an alarm. Was that too much? Did I share too much? Am I safe? This can manifest as a period of withdrawal or quietness. He might seem distant, not because he regrets the experience, but because he is instinctively retreating to his emotional baseline to process the massive energetic and emotional output. He needs to recalibrate and make sure he is still on solid ground. It's a common mistake to interpret this retreat as a loss of interest. You might think, he was so warm and open last night, and now he's quiet and reserved. He must not feel the same way. But often the opposite is true. The more profound the connection and the deeper the vulnerability, the more intense the potential hangover can be. He is grappling with the intensity of his own feelings. Giving him a little space to process without pressure or anxious questioning is one of the most powerful things you can do. It shows that you understand and respect his emotional process, which in turn proves that you are a safe person to be vulnerable with, making him more likely to do it again in the future. Furthermore, a vulnerability hangover can be exacerbated by a dopamine crash. The brain was just experiencing an incredible high, a peak of pleasure and reward. As neurochemistry dictates, what goes up must come down. The day after, he might experience a natural dip in mood and energy as his brain chemistry rebalances. This can feel like a subtle sense of melancholy or flatness. If he doesn't understand what's happening on a biological level, he might misattribute this feeling to you or the experience itself. He might think, why do I feel a little down? Maybe this isn't right. He's confusing a natural chemical fluctuation with a meaningful emotional insight. This is where the emotional tone of the connection is so important. If the foundation of the experience was one of genuine warmth and security, that positive emotional echo will help him ride out the temporary chemical dip. He will be able to hold on to the memory of how good and safe he felt, which will override the transient low feeling. However, if the experience was already on shaky ground, the dopamine crash can amplify any existing doubts or anxieties, cementing a negative association with the encounter. Understanding this biological reality can save you a lot of heartache. His quietness the next day might not be a reflection of his feelings for you, but simply a reflection of his brain's natural and temporary recovery process. Intimacy is not an event, it is a conversation. It is the most honest form of communication we have, spoken in a language of brain chemistry, nonverbal cues, and emotional energy. What he really feels and thinks afterward is not a single simple thought. It is a complex story being written in real time by his oldest instincts and his deepest hopes for the future. By learning to read this language, to understand the difference between a chemical echo and a true emotional connection, between a need for space and a sign of disconnection, you move from being a participant in the story to being a co-author of it. The real truth is revealed not in the peak of the moment, but in the quiet, resonant clarity that follows. That moment right after, which cue from this video suddenly made it all make sense for you? Be honest, this is a safe space to share.